So saith the wise Alando.
Welcome back to Mages and Murderdads, the best show dedicated to the Baldur's Gate franchise and beyond. I'm Cameron, and I play Ticklevar the Sorcerer.
And I am Danny, and I play Balthazar the Barbarian.
This is episode 26, and this time we're going to be talking about De'Arnise Keep.
This is the fighter stronghold, and we did the spell casting stronghold last time, and we figured, better do the fighter person stronghold, and that's this one. So it's going to be fair and square. We'll both have a stronghold moving forward, and we'll both be, real adults with real estate in the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We're going to stop renting. We're going to stop living out of the copper coronet.
Things that we're going to start doing after this episode. Buying diamonds. Making sure that we're not buying Tethir-based avocados.
Absolutely. We're going to be doing all the things adults are going to be doing, are supposed to do, and we're going to stop doing all the millennial things. So we're going to stop uploading Minecraft videos.
If you don't follow us on a number of different things, you can do that. You can see Twitter in the description for both Danny and I. You can see Facebook links to go and like us over on Facebook. You can also like the video. That would help us out a lot. You hit that little thumbs up button, and you can subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done that. You can see us make these videos and make some other videos as well, all of which are good. And of course, we love talking to people in the comments, so if there's anything in this episode that you think is worth commenting about, then you should do that. I think we have good conversations in the comments.
Oh, yeah. 100% of the time. We have, I think that Slate rated us the highest quality comment section on YouTube.
You can also support the show on Patreon.
Still waiting on enough to get us out of Chapter 2, so...
Yeah, we're going to need...
Get to work.
About $2,000 more before we make it out of Chapter 2 of Baldur's Gate 2.
Been a few episodes.
The number of episodes we've done in Chapter 2 is roughly equivalent to the entirety of the number of episodes we did in Baldur's Gate 1, period. Right?
Yep, that's about right.
Something close. Which I guess brings us to the big question for this episode. Right? We do a big question at the beginning of some episodes. If you haven't heard our big questions before, they're just big conceptual ideas that we talk about before we get into the nitty-gritty specific aspect of the show. And our big question this week is, have our characters of Ticklevar and Balthazar changed since we created them in Baldur's Gate 1? So has Balthazar changed any?
I think so. I think a little bit. I think if you flashback to the first episode of this series in Baldur's Gate 1, Balthazar acquired sentience. As he passed from the threshold of childhood to manhood, he became a living, breathing player character. And in one of his first actions, he began to rob the tavern quarters, and was confronted by the law and defended himself after the law attempted to kill him when he refused to be arrested. Right. And I think that if that happened now, I don't know if it would go down the same way. I think it would have a little bit of a sharper angle to it.
Because he would have blade stormed his way through the policeman?
Well, I think the biggest difference would be previously the policeman said, "Hey, you're under arrest." And I said, "I don't want to be under arrest." And then the policeman turned red and then hit me, and then Balthazar was forced to defend himself. Whereas now, if that happened, I think the policeman would have confronted me and said, "Hey, you're under arrest," and then Balthazar would have looked at the policeman and said, "I am going to kill you now." without needing the justification for self-defense. Yeah, I think that the threshold for raising Balthazar's ire has lowered significantly.
Well, it seems like it is no longer anything to do with self-defense. It seems like it has something to do with convenience. that it is inconvenient for this guard to be in Balthazar's way, and so then therefore Balthazar murders him. So is Balthazar just like a pure hedonist now?
I don't know if it's hedonist. I think Balthazar is just a force of nature, and Balthazar, it's in the same way that you must comport yourself to a storm, right? Like, and a hurricane is coming through. You do not make demands of it, right? Like, you just have to figure out how you're going to live in this world where a hurricane's coming at you. And Balthazar is just, like, incredibly insulted when people do not treat him like that.
Oh, I see. It's a self-worth issue.
100%. Oh, yeah.
His self-worth is incredibly high.
Very high, and demonstrably so. Like, it's not as if that's solely subjective, right? Like, Balthazar has single-handedly destroyed deity-like demon figures, killed large dragons like sleeping at the bottom of ruins. He's murdered roughly 2 million people. Yeah, he spent weeks in a beholder's lair just killing very powerful goths. Just to pass the time, just because he just felt like it. Mm-hmm. If you aren't treating Balthazar like a force of nature, you're just objectively foolish.
I mean, yeah, you've made a bad choice.
You have.
I wonder how many, like a villager, just your average human being, is worth X amount of experience points. Right? Mm-hmm. And that's equivalent. Some number of village people. My cat is yelling. I don't know if you can hear that.
Barely.
But some number of village people are equal to a beholder, right?
Sure.
Like in the universal equivalence of experience points that is Dungeons and Dragons. Mm-hmm. So I wonder what the number of people that Balthazar has killed is.
Oh, man.
Like the equivalency number. It's the universe. I mean, XP is literally like Marx's capital, right?
Sure.
like it is the universal equivalency generator.
Dear Lord. So, like, how much experience I have accrued divided by the number a, like, noober provided when I killed him.
Mm-hmm. We're going to run those numbers. Everyone, just keep in your head, I'm going to get my D&D books out. I'm going to get my 2nd edition books out, and we're going to run the numbers.
Yeah, so we'll run the numbers, but also if you have an equation, because I know we've got some people out there that like have some strong analytical skills, strong like pools of evidence they can draw from to get us there. So
that's true.
You do the math, we'll do the math, and let's see what we fall on.
Mm-hmm. We'll get there this next time.
But what about Ticklevar? Has he changed? What's his deal?
Well, the last time that we talked about, like, what are these characters, I think that was toward the end of Siege of Dragonspear. Mm-hmm. Several months ago, in fact. And we talked about how Ticklevar is just like the ultimate state-based believer. Mm-hmm. Right? It's just like someone in authority with higher technical skill than Ticklevar comes to a conclusion about how the world should be, and Ticklevar is the person in between ideas and pure praxis, right? Like, He just goes and does the thing, because that's the way things are supposed to be. He's the quest guy. He goes and does the quests.
A lot of this is, like, really buying into the idea of meritocracy.
Well, I don't even know if Ticklevar thinks of it as meritocracy so much as, like, someone has to make the good ideas happen. And you might be bad at doing that, but someone's got to do it. You know what I mean? And you might not ever get promoted. You know, you might not ever become the guy who comes up with the good ideas. That could be a different skill set.
But you have to believe in the system.
You do, but that's the underlying it all.
Yeah.
But it's not believing in a particular kind of system. It's just the system.
Sure. Mm-hmm. There's no value judgments there. It's just like Ticklevar is in a place where if someone were to question, yeah, but do we really need the Duke? Like, Ticklevar would just look aghast and be like, what would there be if there wasn't this, like, if there wasn't this chain of command and this, like, this guy tells this guy to do something and then he gives me a quest, like, what would replace that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's a deeply fearful character, I think. And so what that means, I think, is that Baldur's Gate 2 has been a very emotionally difficult journey for Ticklevar, because there's no big other, right? In the Lacanian terms, there's no figure to tell him what to do. So that's why he's been running around and doing all these quests. It's not because he is a force of nature. It's because he's like a kite. And he's just kind of blowing in the breeze.
He's looking for a system to latch onto and to be a part of. And unlike in Baldur's Gate 1, where we had father figure right into father figure's friends, right into the very government of Baldur's Gate, which, like, the game itself is kind of dependent on the character's personal motivations. And as such, Ticklevar is, untethered and is just kind of floating from, person with needs to person with needs.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I've been kind of role-playing to that degree, because about half the time when people say, like, why are you questing, right? We talked about this, I think, last episode, where you can say, I'm hunting John Irenicus, or you can say, I'm looking for my friend Imoen. Mm-hmm. And I just randomly choose one of those every time.
Oh.
Yeah. So I'm trying to keep it in that zone, and maybe that's the reason why the party members keep changing, and maybe that's the reason, like, half of the party members are, like, literally categorically evil, and the other half are not. And maybe that's why Jaheira sticks around. I don't know. He's playing that chaotic neutral game, I think.
Interesting. What is your alignment, though?
I think neutral good.
Neutral good.
Yeah, or maybe even chaotic good.
Yeah, but link here to the episode where we talk about alignment for 15 minutes does not necessarily map onto complicated characters like the ones we've sketched out.
Well, we went to De'Arnise Keep. De'Arnise? Darnise?
I think you got to go Italian with it. It's a place, and I don't know if it was pronounced by the person that sent us here, which is a woman, I guess a noble woman, named Nalia. Mm-hmm. We met Nalia back at the Copper Coronet, and the backstory that we were given for this was, hey, my keep is overrun by monsters, and that is the backstory. Please clear it out of monsters. Which, when you compare that backstory to a place like the Planar Sphere and how that quest started, not that different, right? We were just told, hey, there's a person, he killed some cow wizards, go get those cow wizards. Mm-hmm. So from the prompt, this can go anywhere, right?
It can go anywhere, yeah. Mm-hmm. It doesn't really go very many places.
No, I think it goes exactly where the byline on the initial quest entry in your journal is exactly where it goes.
Yeah, I think so. And can you say a little bit about, so, when you accept this quest, you get a little map marker. You can zip on over to the keep. What'd you do when you got there?
So, yeah, the first thing I did is I just kind of went around the keep, the periphery, and there's a few trolls around, and I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to be dealing with some trolls. Luckily, I've picked up my flaming sword in my inventory, so I can, like, switch out when they're unconscious, so I can slay these trolls. And eventually I find a little encampment where there's Nalia is waiting there, and there's also a fellow who whose name escapes me, who's kind of like a captain or a martial fellow of some sort, and basically you find out that is your quest to clear this keep out because it's been beset by trolls and creatures and mean things. And there's an entry you can take into, like, the basement, and you go in there.
Which is very strange, right? It's like, here's a keep. It's strong and scary and big, and also here's a big hole in the side of it.
Sure.
Which is something that we have experienced a number of times now in the Baldur's Gate franchise, most notably in Candlekeep. Mm-hmm. So I just think that's kind of a weird Weird thing.
You gotta have a secret entrance to the castle so that when it's under siege, you are able to escape in the dead of night without being detected. Or when it's occupied by an enemy force, you are able to infiltrate it at night undetected.
Undetected is important.
Sure.
So, what kinds of creatures are here?
Well, there are trolls of many different varieties.
Spectral troll.
I met a spectral troll. Yeah, you saw those too?
I saw one spectral troll, yeah.
Yeah, still resistant to all damage but fire and acid, which makes no, physical sense, right?
Well, they're a ghost and a troll. With the powers of both. With our powers combined.
They should be, if their powers were really combined, they should just be invulnerable, right? They would, nothing would defeat a spectral troll.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's true.
Yeah. And also Yuan-Ti. Why not, right?
The goddamn Yuan-Ti. Yeah.
Why?
What is going on in this game? There has to be some kind of, weird subplot about the Yuan-Ti invading this country.
You know what?
That's dropped out.
If we had to redo the first episode, it would be the Yuan-Ti tracker instead of the genie tracker. Because Jesus Christ,
it's really weird, right? So they were involved in human slavery.
They were, I think, at least one of them were just hanging out with the people in the Temple District and the guarded compound, although arguably they may have been associated with slavery, ? One is just hanging out in Mechrath's lair, standing around.
Being his buddy. And now here they are. And here they're wizards, which is even weirder. I mean, I guess anyone could be a wizard, but they brought wizards with them, I guess is my thing. So
we're no longer getting the JV squad of Yuan-Ti.
No. This is senior squad. All seniors that carry around a big paddle. They chase down smaller Yuan-Ti. But you know what? You know what the big problem is?
What's that?
Yuan-Ti don't have butts. Nothing to paddle.
Oh, yeah. By the end of Throne of Ball, we're going to be running into the AAA squads of just dual-classed sorcerer cleric Yuan-Tis.
And they have a butt. That's what you get. That's a heroic ability for the Yuan-Ti.
That's the high-level ability, possession of butt.
You get a very muscular butt that just doesn't fit on their lizard body.
No, I figured it'd be a once-per-day ability, to just get it for 5 minutes.
Summon butt.
Yeah.
So the content of this keep is not great.
No, it's pretty much you go into this. This was Balthazar's kind of lived experience, right? You go into the keep, you hug the right wall, you try to open doors. A disturbing percentage of the doors are locked, and you have to go berserk and do holy might and then force the door open, and sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't. And then there are several doors that are hidden, which Balthazar's lore score is very low, so you just I know it's hidden because I'm looking at the map, so I just have to walk back and forth for literal 5 minutes of Danny's time just walking back and forth waiting for a door to be seen. And you roll around and you kill trolls and the occasional Yuan-Ti, and you do that for, I don't know, an hour. And that was this keep.
So what were you supposed to be doing? Did you actually pay attention to the quest dialogue?
Yes.
So what were you supposed to be doing here?
Clearing out the keep.
No. You're supposed to be rescuing people.
Okay. Well, I met a servant who told me about survivors, right? But I think the issue is that going in, we didn't even know if there were survivors. So I had to ask him whether there were survivors.
So this guy's name is Delcia. And you're looking for Lord De'Arnise, the Lord of the Keep, of course, and then his sister, Lady Delcia.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, Lord De'Arnise is Nalia's dad, right?
Yes. And then Lady Delcia is his aunt.
Sure.
And so, yeah, so, like, it's this weird thing of, like, this is theoretically a keep that is so overrun that your best shot is, like, getting in, killing some trolls, and then getting everybody out. Of course, what we really do is clear out the whole keep, right?
Sure.
And then we learn. But I like the idea of the initial setup of, like, this might be too scary for us. Which is what the quest dialogue gives you. I don't know if that's clearly not how you play it, but
I mean, the implementation. I think that so. Maybe this is better for the debrief, but let's put a pin in this in terms of like how you would design these things to be more in harmony with that kind of prompt. But in any case, the Dale's son does mention some of the creatures here and refers to, I think at one point he refers to, there are diggers below.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he kind of gives you the narrative of what happened. Where the invasion, he says that trolls attacked from the top, and I think Yuan Ti might have teleported in, and then there were diggers from below that also came up from the bottom. So it was kind of a multi-pronged attack, a very complicated strategic move.
Sure. I think he also offers a quest that had to do with killing dogs or feeding dogs to other people, but I did not. I never interfaced with that. I don't know how to.
Yeah, so I looked this up afterward because he does say, he gives you this like very long narrative where he says that there's this guy, his name is Torgal. He's like King Troll, and King Troll made him feed the diggers, and the diggers are, as we find out later, they are Umber Hulks, which are kind of tunneling creatures that live in the Underdark. And the way he did that is that he had to kill a bunch of dogs and then make dog stew and then take dog stew and like throw it down in the basement where the diggers are. And it never gives you a quest prompt for that. So I didn't really understand it was a quest, but I did go and look it up afterward, after I'd completed this whole thing. And apparently you can go outside, kill a bunch of dogs, take the dog meat from them, cook it in the kitchen, and then give it to the Umber Hulks. I ended up just killing those Umber Hulks. It was not a difficult encounter.
No.
But yeah, it's like this very Baroque way of kind of avoiding one smaller encounter. Out of relatively few. I mean, this only took, like you were saying, it took me about an hour to play through.
Yeah, this is one of the shortest little sections we've done. It may be that when you do this at too low of a level, the Umber Hulk's crowd control abilities are a little overwhelming. I think that they do confusion and other kind of mental stuff like that, in addition to being formidable physical opponents. So I get that there's kind of an alternate win condition there, but yeah, just kind of I would have probably tried to do it if I got an official journal entry or quest entry, but it didn't work out that way. So as I'm rolling around here, I find these little pieces of a weapon, and I find these little flail heads. What do those flail heads make?
So this is one of the coolest things in this game, I think, as far as like conceptually, and it's kind of a bummer that it's stuck in this quest.
Sure.
But so it's the Flail of Ages, and the Flail of Ages is a mystical flail that has been in this family for generations, and it's so powerful of a magical object that they took it apart. So they unbound the flail.
Whoa.
And so you hear, I don't remember who said it, it might have been Nalia right before you come into the keep, but she says, my father was running around looking for all the heads of his flail, which you would think that you would keep tabs on those. But he was looking for all of them to put them together to get rid of the trolls. And so there's just like this little forge. It's a magical forge. The game is very clear about what's going on here. There's no trickery involved in the Flail of Ages. No mystery to it. But yeah, over there's I guess 4 levels to this keep, and there's a flail head in a few of them, and those flail heads are cold, so it does like 1d6 cold damage. There's fire, which does 1d6 fire, and then there is
acid. Which is actually really cool because you can acquire either the fire or acid head very quickly. Like, it's very easy to do that. And the forge is virtually at the beginning of the dungeon from where you enter. So it is very easy for you to get one piece, take it to the forge, and you can actually make a weapon with just one piece. You do not have to wait until you've acquired all of the heads.
Yeah, you can just add them piecemeal.
So the game is basically providing you with another weapon that is capable of killing trolls, which I think is like fun design too, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that's one of the reasons why Lord De'Arnise was thinking about reassembling the weapon, given the invasion, was of how vulnerable trolls were to two of the elements involved.
Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, I ended up doing that and making it. And I remember that with Throne of Ball, eventually when we get to that content, there are even more heads you can add to this thing, which I think is very cool. And I'm excited about doing that. I gave it to Mazzy. No one in my party can currently use a flail. Did you lower the drawbridge?
Yeah, I think so.
That's a really weird thing that happens. So the idea, the guy who's outside, who's like the, kind of weird captain of the guard kind of guy, he says, if you go and you lower the drawbridge, my men can come in and they can help you. And so I lowered the drawbridge, and a bunch of trolls who had not been there before spawned in to fight these dudes. And then, as far as I could tell, these guys did not do a single thing to help me. Like, not a single thing. They killed new enemies that had spawned in.
Yeah, I think I lowered the drawbridge after I cleared it. So there was no...
Got a little victory lap.
Yeah.
So there's there are weird little encounters. Like, we've talked about different kinds of dungeon design over the length of this podcast. We've talked about the Siege of Dragonspear stuff, which is a little bit more like tactics RPG style, a little bit more 5th edition or 4th edition D&D design style. And we've talked about Gygaxian stuff, which is just like, well, there's random stuff in the world, and it's just like the real world would be. I do want to note that the loot containers for this entire place are very, very Gygaxian.
Super Gygaxian. Exactly where they should be, and containing things that make sense.
Yeah, there were just 9 bullets for a sling, because that's just what the person who owned this chest had. They had 9 bullets and 11 gold pieces.
Yeah, the design of this dungeon includes the hypothetical life of a soldier named Frederick who died 2 years ago, and they just haven't cleaned out his box, and he had his 9 lucky sling bullets.
R.I.P. Frederick, I guess. So is there the bottom layer, or the middle layer, I guess, of this dungeon is a little Gygaxian in that way. Like, there are trolls in places that trolls might be, and there are locked rooms where locked rooms might be, but the upper level is pure dungeon design.
Mm-hmm.
So,
so?
Few things that are here. There's a guy up here. His name's Glacius. Glacius,
Glacius.
I had no idea what he was up to when I met him. He's literally just some knight, and he challenges me. He had some dialogue, and he rolled up on me. As far as I know, while I'm playing this game, there are no people here who are humans who want to kill me. Like, this is weird.
Sure.
Glacius comes at me. I kill Glacius very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he goes down without much of a fight. And later I looked him up to find out what was up. And lo and behold, if Nalia is in your party, she will reveal that he has been charmed by the Yuan-Ti. So this is kind of a little bit of, ooh, the Yuan-Ti are doing bad stuff here. There is a room that is full of golems. Like, chock full. There's 5 golems. For
One's
me,
the bigger than the rest, if I recall.
Mm-hmm. So for me, it was like 2 flesh golems, 2 stone golems, and a iron golem. And the iron golem is very tall. So tall, in fact, that he cannot leave the room, or it cannot leave the room. You can just run out of that thing, and it can't follow you.
Yeah, I think this was straight up broken for me.
So the way it worked for me is there are 3 altars in the room. If you click on an altar and then loot it, and in one there was like a magical hammer, and another one there was a bow, and then in the third one of the heads of the Flail of Ages. And if you looted it, then it woke up 2 golems. And then the last one woke up the iron golem. That didn't happen for you?
Interesting. I wonder if you have to loot everything from an altar in order to wake up the golems. Because I looked at the things on the altar, but Balthazar's only one character. He's got limited carrying space, and money is no longer an important thing for Balthazar. Like, he has enough to get to, don't listen to this if you're considering putting into the Patreon, but he's got enough to get out of Chapter 2. So I don't loot every magical item I see, so I only looted the flail head, and maybe there was something else on the altar and I didn't loot it, and that's the reason why the golems didn't animate. But yeah, I just kind of walked around the golems, and I was wondering if there was like a puzzle or something that I was missing, but yeah, just a way to punish you for your greed.
Mm-hmm. Unclear why they didn't use these golems. Or maybe this is the thing. We know for a fact that making golems is A, difficult, and B, expensive.
Sure.
The De'Arnises have probably got, this is probably 100,000 gold pieces worth of golems here.
God, and how many gallons of mimic blood?
Probably at least 1 gallon of mimic blood, which is hard to get.
Really hard to get.
And they're just hanging out here.
You have to walk 15 feet into a cave that's nearby to do it.
But that cave is in the Umar Hills.
Sure.
And they're in
I
De'Arnise Keep.
just imagine that you're always 15 feet within a cave with a mimic. I think that's also a possibility.
Gotta run the numbers on that.
Okay.
But you would think that a place with this capability might be able to sick a couple golems on a couple trolls, is all I'm saying.
Sure. But unless it's a fire golem, the trolls would just keep coming.
Oh my god.
No, it would just be a golem pounding a eternally regenerating troll in the face forever.
We gotta simulate that.
Yeah.
So, but in order to get here, you actually meet Lady Delcia. And
yeah, that's right.
And this is, I think, the most interesting part of De'Arnise Keep. Do you remember this encounter?
Yeah, this is practically the only real narrative that you get.
Mm-hmm.
You get mean mugged by a troll we're going to talk about in like half a second, and you interact with a very unpleasant woman. So this is the latter half there.
Well, I think that there's an interesting critique that's happening here.
Sure, no, and it gets dropped several different times, which I think if you have Nalia in the party, your experience in this dungeon is very different. And maybe better, who knows?
Yeah, I think so. I was not willing to do that.
Yeah, but when you first meet Daleson, the one of the servants that's kind of here, and he kind of guides you and tells you about the survivors, Daleson basically says, look, these nobles are terrible. Nalia basically thinks that she is kind of a champion of the peasantry, of the workers and of all of the servants, and she has this affinity for them. However, she's still a noble, and it's almost as if she's forgotten that she's like still afforded all of the privileges of her station, and while still like being able to call herself a champion of the peasants. So Daleson like puts his finger on that kind of tension like from the get-go. Mm-hmm. Now, when you meet Lady Delcia, she just represents the purest, like most evil, hierarchical, feudalistic vision of Forgotten Realms that we've seen so far, right? She does not view anyone... She views everyone who is not of noble birth as just absolute degenerates. And she treats you that way.
Yeah, she's deeply unappreciative that you have rescued her. And the reason is that because you're dirty.
You're dirty
commoner.
and you're obviously lowborn, and although you're still obligated to do it, she's going to like trash talk you all the time.
And it's interesting. Well, I really love that that when you open the door, there's a guard who's there with her, and he like parenthetically talks to you. He's whispering, I guess.
Yeah.
And he basically says all of this too. He's like, "It's been terrible being here with her. She's awful. please let me go. Can I go now?
Sure,
And I
sure.
said, go ahead. Did you get the dialogue option to just straight murder her?
Yeah.
What did Balthazar do?
So yeah, I got a dialogue. Basically, she called me a degenerate lowborn twice. And the first time after she did it, I was like, wow, that's a very nice thing to do to the person rescuing you. And then she just did it again. And I got the dialogue option. Okay, well, Balthazar, the dialogue option was more like, I think all of these peasants would be better if you were dead, which wasn't exactly what Balthazar would have wanted to say, right? Mm-hmm. Like, Balthazar, at this point, does not care about killing this person for the working class. He cares about killing this person because they're bad, right? Mm-hmm. They have stood in the storm's way.
Kind of the Punisher style.
Yeah. But the real thing that got me was that Lady Delcia, like, doubles down in that moment. In the moment where this incredibly powerful adventurer has threatened her, and she's like, go ahead and kill me. My only regret is that your dirty peasant hands will be the ones that kill me. But, like, I am going to stand by everything that I have said, and I regret nothing. So in her dying, like, words, she only fortifies her position as just a shitty human being.
And then, in a twist of fate, Balthazar let her go.
Oof. No,
Nope.
God, no.
Oh, that didn't go that way?
Chunks on the bedroom wall.
Oof, God.
just
But yeah.
and like a huge reputation loss.
Oh, really?
Yeah, one reputation loss for the decision to kill her, like the dialogue option, and then another for killing her, which I think was like especially cruel of the game, right? Mm-hmm. Like, how many people say that but don't kill her? How many? Because they turn hostile. The guard does, at least.
Dang.
Yeah.
You killed them both.
Well, yeah, I had to. He had the option. He had a choice.
He could have left. He could have left.
Yeah.
Well, I think that it's interesting that there's like this weird class critique kind of coming and going, right? That the implication being that, like, someone in the nobility in this world, if you buy into being part of the nobility, you're just straight up evil. Like, you're not gonna be a good person. And we've seen this quite a few times over the course of both of these games. But if you're a part of the nobility and you're trying to disavow that, the very fact that you're a part of the nobility means that you really won't get it. Mm-hmm. Which is like the critique of Nalia that's happening here. That in her rush to represent the peasantry or whatever, she ultimately does them a disservice because she's like patronizing and kind of a jerk.
Sure.
And things like that. I just think it's interesting. There's nothing gets resolved here. I do think that her personal quest, if you bring her into the party and you do the Stronghold quest and solve her issue with, we'll talk about it in a minute, but you solve the issue of her, like, arranged marriage, I do think that she kind of, like, comes into some personal awakening. So I think there is a longer, more interesting story there that doesn't just kind of leave you here. But if you don't do that, this is exactly where we're left.
Sure.
And I think that's weird thing.
I do want to mention one other thing that Daleson says, which I think was really interesting, because I was playing around with Daleson's dialogue when I first met him, and Balthazar, not a friend of slavers, because that is just the ultimate sign of weakness. Mm-hmm. And I think you can extend that logic to nobility and feudal lords, right, very easily. Mm-hmm. So I made a dig at Daleson about, we need to get rid of this nobility. And I think it's Daleson. I don't think I've invented this dialogue from him whole cloth, but I'm pretty sure Daleson says, okay, well, what would you replace it with? Like, where does that leave all of the peasants, right?
And then Balthazar is, like, paging through his copy of The Road to Serfdom, just going, wait, 1 second, hold on.
Yeah, but I mean, so I think all of these elements point to the fact that the game is, like, it's doing some work here I think the real weakness is that they didn't like make this more prominent, right? Mm-hmm. Like, instead of a bunch of trolls, what if? Well, we'll put a pin in this. Talk about it at the debrief.
Mm-hmm. And to be fair, you need to. You will be doing the stronghold quests, and I think what you are alluding to does show up in those stronghold quests.
Okay, good. Did any of your did you kill Lady Delcia?
No, I didn't.
Did any of your party members like interact with her?
Yes. Everyone had something negative to say about her, and the only one that I wrote down, Viconia, said that she should be tortured in the abyss, or in the demon web pits, by Lolth. Which is like the worst shit that can happen to you, right? I cannot think of a worse thing.
I mean, it's her and the Demogorgon, right? Like, that's 1 and 2, we just don't know which order, and you don't want to find out.
Yeah, you don't want to know.
That is interesting because Viconia's... So if Viconia were a regular drow, or like a more typical drow, and like the evil drow that we're used to, because Viconia is not a worshiper of Lolth. All other drow that are kind of traditional non-heretics are super hierarchical, right?
Yeah.
Like genders and religious station and house, their entire society is just based on hierarchy. That hierarchy is constantly in flux and subverted, and there are betrayals, but the hierarchy exists. So I have to imagine that Viconia has especially negative feelings or thoughts about feudalism and like nobility and those kind of hierarchical structures in the surface world, just as she would in the Underdark.
Yeah, I think so. I believe that there's probably going to be more of that coming out later, right? Most of the party members in this game have some sort of personal quest. So, like, for example, right in the middle of being in this keep, you remember that halfling who met me outside of the planar sphere and that whole thing?
Yeah.
Last episode? Mazzy is now like, we have to go do that now, or I'm going to leave and do it myself. So I think that's probably going to be our next episode. Mm-hmm. Or at least I have to go do that. So like that kind of thing happens. I believe that Viconia has one of those as well that kind of deals with some of these personal issues, and I'm curious to see like where that makes her land on kind of like a authoritarian, libertarian scale.
Sure.
For lack of a better structural versus chaos scale.
Mm-hmm. No, that will be interesting. But I guess the way this dungeon ends is we just find a troll king and we kill the troll king, right?
Yeah, you go on down there. I do think this is interesting. So you go down to the basement, and the first room you go into after like the landing room is straight up a torture chamber.
Sure.
Like, what the hell were they doing here? Needing a torture chamber.
I think it just keeps. That's not even a separate option. That's just like you pick your color, and vanilla. It's going to come with a torture chamber.
Oh, I gotcha. Mm-hmm. You got to turn that thing into a rec room.
Sure.
But yeah, there's a dude named Torgal, and this was really weird. So I go in there. Torgal's there. He's got 2 other greater trolls with him. He's got the dead body of Lord De'Arnise, so that's probably not going to end up well for that guy.
No.
But Torgal is like, hey, what's up? And I was like, hey, we don't have to fight here. We can talk this out. Because, like, this is a troll who has allied with another species. An empire-building species, by the way. The Yuan-Ti, whatever episode we talked about the Yuan-Ti in. Like, they do some real shit.
Yeah.
So, he's allied with them. He has figured out how to do at least a dual, perhaps a tripartite invasion strategy of a keep. Like, this troll is kingdom building.
Oh, yeah.
He seems to have his shit together in a very interesting way.
And this is like, very attractive to Ticklevar.
Well, I would just, I'm looking for a boss here, ultimately. At the end of the series, we're going to find out that Ticklevar was his own boss the whole time.
Aw.
I know. The big other was in his heart the whole time.
We're gonna have we'll have to put the more like animated GIF in the show for that realization.
But yeah, I want to talk to Torgal, and he was just like, no, we're going to fight it out. Like, there was no possibility of having a dialogue option, at least in my experience of trying to get to talk to him. So that was kind of a bummer.
Well, I guess that completely every like disappointment that Ticklevar has is a complete justification for the way that Balthazar acts.
You should have just swung first and asked.
Yeah, you should
questions
have just
later.
swung first. Yeah.
Well, maybe that's true. Mm-hmm. But so killed King Troll, went outside, told Nalia about it. Nalia goes into a long explanation. Let me tell you my side of this, and I'm very curious about what your side of this conversation was.
Sure.
She says, well, my father. Yay. I'm so glad that the keep is cleared of all troll kid, spectral and otherwise. But actually, this is bad, because I have an arranged marriage to a guy named Rowanall, and the Rowanalls are real jerks, and since I'm the only heir to the De'Arnise fortune, the Rowanalls are going to come in, marry me, and then spend all of my money, and take us to ruin. They are bad. Oh no. And I say, well, what about a marriage of convenience? You know, like Ticklevar marries you, we make this go. And she says, no, that won't work. That would be seen through immediately. If only you were some type of warrior, we could have used some ancient, like, rituals to make you Lord Protector, and that would solve the problem, but it won't. And then I was like, well, what about blah, blah, blah? And she says, no, you had to be a strong warrior, I'm sorry. I guess I'm just going to lead this life of crappiness. Can I come with you in your party? To which I was like, no, no, absolutely not. And she said, well, I guess I'm just going to marry that guy. And then she runs away.
Wow.
And out of the story forever.
I like how her dialogue options are the most DM railroady dialogue. How about any one of these other reasonable solutions? Nope, you must be a warrior. Only a warrior could ever possibly complete the tasks and challenges of the ancient rites. Only a warrior could become steward of the keep.
Yep.
And then Ticklevar's like, I have $1 billion, and I'm like well respected, and I have the references of Lord Belt, and we can make this work. I have warriors in the party. Look at Mazzy. She's got a little flail. Look, she's constructed the flail of ages. She's carrying it.
I am the owner and operator of a giant orb that flies around the universe. Like, I feel like I can handle managing basically a house.
Yeah, managing a keep whose structural integrity and defenses are so formidable that a group of Umberhulks, trolls, and Yuan Ti were capable of infiltrating it simultaneously through 3 different methods.
Yeah, but she was like, no, you don't get it. So maybe she was just being patronizing. Because I grew up in Candlekeep.
The ultimate discrimination. Yeah, Balthazar just said, yeah, it sounds like if I just became ward of this, it would solve all your problems. She was like, yeah, that's exactly right. So is the idea that if there is a ward, I can retain her services and she does not get married off, or rather, the other family, the family that's trying to marry her, would no longer be motivated to marry her because the steward would be in control of the keep and not Nalia? Like, is it A, B, a little bit A and B?
I have no idea. You tell me. I didn't see any of this.
No, I don't.
Don't know.
All of that setup was like, you saw the same setup I did. It was just the decision that you missed out on.
I think you'll find out. Like, I believe that in your Stronghold missions, it's been literally a decade since I've done the fighter Stronghold missions, but I believe that what those Stronghold missions are about, so the Planar Sphere, the ones that I do, are about, like, managing wizard shit, so, like, training some apprentices and doing some discoveries and things like that. I think that yours is about managing the land, and the lands in order to make sure that it can be self-sustaining and not get taken over. Preventing, I think, both a peasant revolt and like the Rowanals from doing stuff. I believe that's
going to
what
be
you said.
interesting to see how Balthazar plays that.
I'm curious about finding out.
Yeah, okay.
So I know you're excited to debrief on this. You have some big, grand, conceptual ideas about De'Arnise Keep.
Yeah, to be honest, this was a little disappointing, right? We both played the Planar Sphere. That was your Stronghold quest. That was really interesting and weird and Dungeons and Dragony too, right? Like a weird pseudo-lich rolling around the galaxy's ancestor didn't want to get his soul sucked out of him, so we went and we found out that it was possessed by some entity, and we went to the abyss and we had to kill a demon and get its heart in order to fuel it to get back to the prime material plane. That's a pretty comprehensive summary, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And we've done other Stronghold quests too, right? Temple of the Unseen Eye is a Stronghold quest. It's a big, beefy, weird kind of quest. And the Umar Hills is the Ranger one, and that's a big, strange quest that takes you to a bunch of different locations.
Yeah. And this was a keep with trolls and some snake people in it. And a couple of Umber Hulks. And it just felt very limited in some ways. And it was also one of the few Stronghold quests where it's just one area, really, right? Like, I guess the keep has several maps and the floors, but they all look the same. And the fact that this is the Stronghold for the fighter class is just so... It fits with the way Dungeons & Dragons treat fighters, and they've always done this. Like Dungeons & Dragons, to a huge extent, has always been kind of a nerd fantasy fulfillment of catering to players that were maybe bullied by jocks and athletic types. And I think that the system itself has a deep-seated desire to punish the jocks and athletic types. And I gotta say, both Danni and Balthazar are deeply wounded by the vengeance that is this underwhelming keep.
I mean, I wonder if let me give another potential narrative for this year, rather than it being kind of jocks versus wizards, as it were. I think another way of thinking about it is that the Gygaxian design that we praise so much, and I do like a lot of Gygaxian ideas, is kind of predicated on the idea of, like, a dude with a sword and a shield can do X amount, and a wizard can probably do more than that person.
Sure, and there's also the idea of... Baked into the Gygaxian universe, there's this idea of, hey, barbarians and fighters, they start out real strong. If you've ever played a level 1 D&D campaign, like, objectively, the wizard is just the weakest class for, like, the first several levels, right? They just aren't able to do anything. Later versions of D&D have kind of, like, mitigated that. But, and there's this idea of, like, hey, the floor of the fighter is relatively high. Like, they do that thing that they do. But there's only so much better you can get at swinging a sword. Whereas manipulating reality itself has a very high ceiling.
And, I think... I do think at some point in this show, we will talk about the kind of Gary Gygax and then Arneson, Dave Arneson split, right? The split of design that happens between those two kind of co-creators of early Dungeons & Dragons. But it's worth noting that Dave Arneson, in his own early campaigns, while Gary Gygax was working with chainmail, not literal chainmail, but the rule set for chainmail, which was kind of like tactical combat rules for single individual medieval fighters, and had a little bit of wizardry stuff in it too. That Dave Arneson was creating things like superheroes that were people with swords and shields who could also do extra special weird things. Sure. And that didn't really make it into the more refined, strict rule set Gygaxian stuff. And I think that, like, this is the payoff for that, right? Is that, at least in Dave Arneson's vision of it, there were ways of making a dude with a sword and a shield more powerful and interesting and able to impact reality in not the same way, but just as important ways. And that really isn't in the Gygaxian kind of universe, I don't think.
Yeah, I think, and we'll have to see. It may be that the keep is more of a slow burn, and that is going to get better with better as it goes when it comes to completing these stronghold quests. And it may be that the planar sphere is kind of already already kind of exhibited its thunder, and like where is it going to go from here? I do think I would have loved to see more explicit class talk, even bad class talk, right? Like, just mechanically, like, have the peasants, like, be a bunch of survivors, like, having blocked off, and have them be like, we're not going back, right? We're working with the trolls now. They're at least fair, right? Like, something like that would have been really interesting, and having the player, like, make a real ethical decision, because the only real, like, moral decision you make in this keep is whether to kill Lady Delcia, which had no consequences. Like, I spoke to Nalia. Nalia never acknowledged that. Well, geez Louise, so I guess Mazzy's going to leave your party if we don't go to trade meet, so I guess that's next, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's trade meet. I got to make sure. It could be Windspear Hill.
Oh, my God.
Hills. Good Lord. Why can't I say the word hill? Yeah, we've only got a couple more things to do as far as episodes are concerned before we actually jumpstart the story again. We have to do Windspear Hills. We have to do the docks district, and then that's it, I think.
Sure, we probably would end up doing the graveyard district at some point.
Yes. Yeah, we end up being put into that anyway, though.
Yeah.
We'll talk. That'll appear in the next couple episodes. But same as at the top, you can follow us both on Twitter. You can like Mages and Murderdads over on Facebook. If you haven't subscribed here on YouTube, you can hit the subscribe button, and please hit the like button at the bottom of the page. It's a little thumbs up that helps us out and gets more eyeballs on the show, which we all want. If you really like the show and you want to support it financially, you can go to the Patreon link in the description and kick us a little bit of money. There's currently you get some little essays and whatnot each month, but that's going to change soon. But there'll be more
for the better,
and there'll be more information about that very soon.
That'd be bad if you downgraded it and made it like, yeah, instead of essays, you get an exclusive tweet.
You get one tweet, one thank you tweet. But yeah, so this was episode 26, right?
Yeah.
I'm Cameron.
And I'm Danny.
And goodbye.
Ciao.
Alando.